Hello, and welcome to your spiritual journey. Right now, your soul is speaking to you. I'm Jenny Israel, and I'm a medical intuitive, energy healer, spiritual activator, counselor, and teacher. It is my mission to help you learn the tools you need to heal your life and discover your deeper purpose. In each episode, I will allow Spirit to speak through me, and we will explore energy forecasting, teach you how to raise your vibration for overall wellness, increase your emotional intelligence to open up joy in your life, and guide you into spiritual evolution using topics such as energy healing, emotion code, sacred geometry, numerology, tarot, crystals, channeling, and much more. Take a deep inhale, let it out, and listen to your soul speak to you.
Hey everybody. I wanted to pop on today for continued learning around our April's theme of emotional intelligence. And what we've already started to touch on is just understanding you being an emotional being. So your emotionality, that it is just as important to understand and learn the language of your emotions as it is to understand and learn the language of the mind, and that our true power comes from the combination of both of those things. So what I wanted to talk about today a little bit inside of emotional intelligence is triggers. So one part of emotional intelligence is understanding yourself as an emotional being and how you are responding at any given moment inside of an environment. What is triggering you? Who is triggering you? What is it about what that person is saying or doing, or the environment that you're sitting in, or what's happening in the world around you? Why is that triggering you? And these are the questions that we can start to ask ourselves to have that dialogue with potentially those mental structures that are in place and probably have been in place from the time that we were children, and that, you will often hear it referred to as the buttons that are installed, right? So our parents install a lot of those buttons. We come pre-programmed with some of them. And then inside of relationship, we play these things out in order to have it mirrored back at us so we can learn about ourselves and do better, be better. So the other part of this is not just having the dialogue with yourself about the triggers. And the whole point of that is to eventually create a behavior where you're not pointing the finger at another person, right? Well, they made me feel that way. They did this thing to me and that made me unhappy. Well, that cord, that energy, that was already there. There was something that was out of coherence inside of old thoughts, inside of the archives, inside of the unconscious. And that person said something, and the words or the vibration or the tone of it triggered that old thing. And when that you activate that old stuff, essentially what you're experiencing is like a PTSD, right? So PTSD can look lots of different ways. It doesn't just have to be, a veteran coming home from war. I mean, we all have vibrations that have almost made us sticky in certain points of our timeline, where at any given moment we can be transported back to that moment in time. And remember what I said about the body. It's just a mechanism waiting for instructions, right? So the body doesn't know where it is unless you are telling it where it is. So if you get triggered, you're no longer in the present moment. Now you are wherever that old thought form is located on your timeline. You've just been transported back there. And so your body is going to respond as if it is right back in the middle of that trauma point or that experience or that programming. And you are going to react from there. The body is going to react from there. And that's where the emotional response comes from. And so having these in-depth conversations with ourselves of, I just got triggered, that person spoke to me in this way, it's not to say that you let yourself be a doormat because it's all your stuff. No, that's not what I'm saying. If someone is treating you badly, then you stand in your power. so they can't do that anymore. But it's about taking your power back and understanding why it's triggering you in the first place. And then that becomes your strategy to heal it ultimately. And if you heal that vibration, most often those people that are perpetuating those triggers suddenly start to disappear in your life if they do not match you when you are in coherence and alignment with yourself. But the other piece of this that I want to bring forward, especially with the energy of right now, because of this really potent Aries energy that we've been talking about, there is aggression. There is the trickster energy. Remember, we were talking about the trickster energy. So there's a lot of manipulative energy out there. There is the need for us to move into old control mechanisms to try to regain some sort of footing in those areas where we may feel a bit out of control. And so inside of that, I think sometimes we forget the other side of emotional intelligence, which is taking responsibility for the energy that you're bringing in to conversations, that you're bringing in to work, that you're bringing into a session with a client, that you're bringing into the room inside of your own mind. You know, these are things that we also need to be very mindful of. And inside of that, we're also taking responsibility for our triggers and not making it somebody else's problem, right? So this is also a huge part of the know thyself, right? To be able to catch yourself in those moments where you are projecting or you're blaming someone else for the way that you're feeling, or you're just not being present and you're not being mindful of the emotions that you're feeling and ultimately just trying to purge them out, get them out. And sometimes we will stir the pot with another person to create a vehicle for expression. When we're feeling the building, we're feeling the pressure within. And so today's lesson is about triggers, but it's also about understanding that there is a give and take inside of this, of understanding how other people are triggering you to be able to dive deeper into the places that still need healing for self, but potentially how you are showing up that is triggering another person. And what energy are you bringing in? Where is that coming from? What are you attempting to try to do inside of that situation? Are you listening to your heart? Are you trying to establish your own personal power again? Or are you manipulating a situation to potentially create some sort of false sense of control in a time in your life when you may be feeling a bit out of control? The energies of right now are making us all a little volatile, and we're all feeling quite vulnerable right now because we're purging and ascending at a really rapid rate in this current moment. And that can kind of make us feel a bit scattered, like we're going in multiple directions at the same time. We tend to get a little bit potentially over dominating in certain situations because we get this sense of urgency that, like, I have to establish my power and I have to do it right now and it's going to happen like this. Well, that's a knee-jerk reaction, okay? And any sort of reaction in that way, that's still ego. That's not being present, and that's not making a conscious choice. Because if you're present and you're making a conscious choice, even with these surges of energy, you're understanding the emotions you're feeling as you're feeling them, the thoughts that are accompanying that, the kind of response that you want to put out into the world, and is that in alignment with this better version of yourself that you're trying to create? That doesn't mean that we aren't going to take a couple of steps backwards here and there. It's just part of the growing process. And inside of that, we also need to be compassionate with ourselves, be forgiving, because the only way that we're really learning is through doing, right? And sometimes in the doing, we will make mistakes. It's part of growth. It's part of the whole process of ascension. And so just making sure that you are leaving space for that as well. And the compassion for self will lead to compassion for another. When you see another person getting triggered, you understand that potentially it's not, because we all make it about us, right? It's like somebody else's issues, they project it onto us. Now it's about us. So it's really understanding of like, okay, the way that that person just reacted to me, that's their stuff. How I choose to respond now, that's my stuff. Okay, so this is all a part of emotional intelligence and growing to understand ourselves as beings that are thought and feeling, and that there is programming in place that can create either a conscious response or a knee-jerk reaction that is very much a part of the old story, the old narrative, the ego-controlled reaction. And so I think that this energy is quite helpful right now, considering how combustible things are. But just wanted to pop on with an extra lesson. I hope you all are having a beautiful April 13th, and I'll see you guys again soon.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to Soul Speak. I'm Jenny Israel, medical intuitive, energy healer, spiritual activator, counselor, and teacher. You can learn more by following me on Facebook or Instagram at Jenny Israel CPC. That's Jenny Israel, and then the letter CPC. If you would like to receive more messages from Spirit directly to your mailbox, visit jennyisrael.com, scroll down to the bottom, and subscribe to my newsletter. You can also contact me through my website or social media to set up a one-on-one session or to check out my upcoming spiritual development classes. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please help support my show by giving it a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts. Spirit and I will speak to you again soon. Blessings and light to all.